The Addams Family television show, which hit the air on ABC in 1964, is one of the most enduring pieces of pop culture to come out of the mid-20th century. This ooky, kooky, and ever so spooky family of oddballs made a significant impact on culture and society at large. What started as a comic strip written by Charles Addams for The New Yorker in 1938 has grown into a full-fledged media empire. In addition to the iconic 60s TV show and the two hit sequel films of the 90s, the Addams brood has also been featured in video games, 2 animated series, and most recently in 2 big-budget computer-animated films. Join us as we take a look back in time at the various incarnations of the Addams Family over the years. The Addams Family comic strip, 1938. A lot of people subscribe to the false notion that the Addams Family got its start as a TV show in the 60s, but the first time they appeared was actually in a series of comic strips published in The New Yorker in 1938. The Addams Family was the creation of Charles Addams, a freelance cartoonist born in 1912 to parents Charles Huey Addams, a piano executive, and his wife Grace M. Spear Addams. Reportedly, Charles based the character Morticia's slender appearance on his first wife, Barbara Jean Day, whom he was married to from 1942 to 1950. His second wife, Estelle Barbe, was a lawyer who notoriously tricked her husband into signing away the TV and film rights to his Addams Family characters. Charles and Estelle went through a fairly ugly divorce in 1956. He later married his third wife, Marilyn Matthews Miller, and moved to Sagaponack, New York in the mid-'80s, where they settled into an estate that was endearingly nicknamed the Swamp. Addams passed away September 29, 1988, at age 76, after having a heart attack while parking his car. Per his wishes, Charles's ashes were interred in the pet cemetery at the Swamp. Charles's cartoons regularly appeared in The New Yorker, and throughout his life he drew more than 1,300 cartoons. In addition to the Addams Family, he also created the syndicated single-panel comic Out of This World, which ran in the paper from 1955 to 57. The first Addams Family TV series, 1964 to 66. ABC was the first television network to take the characters Addams created and bring them to life. The Addams Family ran for 2 seasons and pitched itself as a spooky yet wholesome sitcom that explored the many adventures and escapades of the titular family as they clashed with the sensibilities of the outside world. The series not only starred all the characters featured in the comic strip, including Gomez, Morticia, Pugsley, Wednesday, Grandmama, Lurch, Fester, and Thing, but it also introduced the world to that catchy, finger-snappy theme song written by Vic Mizzy. Scooby-Doo meets the Addams Family, 1972. After the show wrapped in 1966, the iconic family didn't make a return to TV until 6 years later, in 72, when they guest starred in one of the new Scooby-Doo movies produced by Hanna-Barbera. In the animated film, Scooby-Doo meets the Addams Family, which is also known as Wednesday is Missing. Scooby and his merry band of meddling kids get duped into babysitting Wednesday and Pugsley, while Gomez and Morticia go off on a second honeymoon getaway. Scooby, Shaggy, and the gang run into trouble, however, when Wednesday goes missing from her family's Gothic manor. Of course, in the end, they find her, and as always, there was a big reveal moment when it was discovered that the housekeepers and a mysterious villain named the Vulture were behind the disappearance. The Addams Family Funhouse, 1973. ABC produced a pilot for an Addams Family variety show in 1973 in which they recast every role. Jack Riley and Liz Torres, lead writers of the special, played Gomez and Morticia. Fester was played by Stubby Kaye, Pat McCormick portrayed Lurch, and Butch Patrick was selected to play Pugsley. Patrick had previously played Little Eddie Munster on The Munsters, a similarly themed sitcom that ran around the same time as the original series. It also got higher ratings than the original Addams Family. While the producers of the show hoped it would get picked up and turned into a series, it only ended up airing as a one-off special. The first Addams Family Hanna-Barbera animated series, 1973. That Scooby-Doo Addams Family crossover television movie was so popular, Hanna-Barbera decided to give the Addams their very own animated series in 1973. The show was on the air for only 1 season, and it revolved around the Addams clan embarking on a cross-country road trip in their appropriately named creepy camper. While the show is all but forgotten these days, it did include voice work from a young Jodie Foster, who was just 11 when she provided the voice for Pugsley. Halloween with the New Addams Family, 1977. Here we have a special reunion of the original cast of the 1963 series that was broadcast on NBC in 1977. Everyone reprised their roles with the exception of Blossom Rock, who had played Grandmama Addams. She couldn't rejoin the cast as she was very ill at the time and died shortly after its initial broadcast. Halloween with the New Addams Family was a made-for-TV movie that was released just in time for Halloween. In it, Wednesday and Pugsley were all grown up, which allowed for an older Loring and Weathermax to make appearances. The plot involved Gomez and Morticia getting targeted by a band of thieves while Gomez feuded with his older brother, Pancho. The Addams Family, 1991. The Addams Family intellectual property was untouched through the 80s, and Charles Addams passed away in '88 at the age of 78. Following his death, rumors started going around that a reboot of the series was going to happen. The family returned once again in Barry Sonnenfeld's 1991 feature film. The film had a $30 million budget and starred Raul Julia as Gomez, Angelica Houston as Morticia, Christina Ricci as Wednesday, Jimmy Workman as Pugsley, Christopher Lloyd as Fester, Judith Molina as Grandmama, and Carl Stryken as Lurch. The film was a massive success at the box office and was hailed by critics and audiences alike. It grossed $191 million at the box office and spawned a new cartoon series, which we'll get to in a moment, and several video games. For a lot of Addams Family fans, this film is one of the best incarnations of the franchise because of how adeptly it adapted its subject material and characters to the modern world. The production values were stellar, the cast was strong, and it was genuinely funny. The Addams Family, the animated series, 1992 to 93. After the success of the Addams Family film, a new animated series was developed and broadcast on ABC. It was produced by the animation gurus at Hanna-Barbera, and John Astin was brought in to provide the voice for Gomez. Nancy Linari played Morticia, Rip Taylor voiced Fester, Carol Channing portrayed Grandmama, Jim Cummings played Lurch, Debbie Derryberry's voice was used for Wednesday, and Jeannie Elias played Pugsley. The animated series ran for 2 seasons and involved the family getting all caught up in their usual shenanigans at their estate. Addams Family Values, 1993. Barry Sonnenfeld returned to his director's chair again for this sequel to the 1991 film. After Morticia gave birth to the newest member of the family, Pubert, Gomez and his wife hire a nanny named Debbie, who ends up being a money-hungry serial killer. Debbie ships Pugsley and Wednesday off to summer camp while trying to seduce Uncle Fester in hopes of making off with his riches. Addams Family Values didn't do quite as well as its predecessor at the box office, so the studio wasn't particularly eager to make a third installment. Sadly, Raul Julia passed away in 1994 from a stroke. If he hadn't died so abruptly, it's possible a third film would eventually have been made. Addams Family Reunion, 1998. While often mistakenly considered the third Addams Family film, this straight-to-video feature-length offering was intended to be a pilot for a new sitcom based on the franchise. Tim Curry played Gomez, which is one of the only redeeming qualities of this otherwise dismal release. The Addams Family Animated Movies, 2019 and 2021. In 2010, Illumination Entertainment obtained the rights to the Addams Family, and at first they intended on making a stop-motion animated film based on Charles Addams' original comic strips. Tim Burton was at one point rumored to produce and direct this feature, but it was scrapped in 2013. Later that year, word spread that Pamela Petler, who previously worked on Corpse Bride and Monster House, was rewriting the film's script, but nothing more was heard for years. In 2019, Universal Pictures finally brought the family to a whole new generation of children with their box office smash computer-animated film. This new incarnation featured a star-studded cast, including Oscar Isaac, Charlize Theron, and Snoop Dogg. In October of 2021, The Addams Family 2 hit theaters and featured many of the same voice talents from the previous film. So far, the film has grossed $95 million worldwide against a budget of $47. Now it's time to hear from you. What was your favorite incarnation of the Addams Family? Let us know in the comments section below. And before you go, make sure you give this video a like and subscribe to Facts First if you haven't already. Click the bell icon to stay updated on all our latest content.